Hello, I'm Richard Hunter and welcome to our look ahead for the week commencing the 17th of November. If there's been two things largely at the centre of this year's rallies, it's been a return to the AI trade and the expectation of interest rate cuts, particularly in the US. As the week wore on, both of those have now been brought into question. There's been ongoing concerns for some time in terms of the AI trade that stretch valuations and over-investments may take some time to actually filter through. So there's been a bit of a rotation out of some of the mega cap tech stocks. At the same time, in terms of interest rate cuts and the imminent Federal Reserve decision in December, of course, there's been a government shutdown, and whilst that finished during the week, it's currently unclear whether the data, particularly in terms of inflation and the jobs market, will now be up to date in time for that Federal Reserve decision, in which case markets are now fearing that they could choose to sit on their hands until visibility is restored. All that being said, and despite a weaker end to the week, the markets, generally speaking, remain in rude health. In the year to date, the Dow Jones is still up by 11.5%, the S&P 500 by 14.5%, the Nasdaq by 18.4%, and despite the Thursday and Friday weakness having hit record earlier highs earlier in the week, the FTSE 100 is still up by 18.5%. Turning to next week, there's three stocks to keep a particular eye out for. The first one is full-year numbers from Imperial Brands. Shares are up by about 36% over the last year. Obviously, there's an ongoing move towards next generation products. So in terms of profitability and revenues, that's something to look out for, as will be any updates on their share buyback programme, which was previously at a level of about £1.45 billion. That adds to a current dividend yield of around 5%, so that will also be in focus, as will, of course, any increase in pricing which Imperial Brands may have introduced to offset any decline in volumes. Half-year numbers also from Babcock International. It's an unfortunate sign of the time that defence companies have been doing so well over this last year amid the geopolitical uncertainty. Babcock shares, for example, over the last year are up by 130%. So a couple of things to be looking out for here. Any new contracts? It was certainly a busy time last time we heard from them at the last update. I think it was in September. Land Division was suffering slightly because of its rail subsidiary, but that was more than offset by growth in nuclear, aviation and marine. So updates no doubt will be coming in terms of those. And again, shareholder returns may be mentioned. Previously, they had announced a £200 million buyback for the first time in their history. And finally, Jet2 has some half-year numbers. Slightly different story here. Shares are down by about 12% over the last year, despite some very good full-year numbers all the way back in July. They followed that up with a profit warning in September, which unsurprisingly put the shares under some pressure. So it's a question now of whether they've been able to recoup any of their predicted fall in full-year earnings by having benefited from the peak summer season. So look out, obviously, for passenger numbers, revenues and profitability. Thank you for watching. Have a great week.